this is David Stark from WatcherPass.com, your website for movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Today I'm joined by Damien LeVeck, the co-writer, producer, and director of the all-new Shudder original, The Cleansing Hour. We're going to talk to Damien in just a second, but first let's check out that trailer. And while you're watching it, if you could like and subscribe, that would help us out a lot. Thank you.
In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I command you to give me your name.
And cut. Nice job, everybody. Good job.
I gotta think, man.
Follow monitors, let me lead.
All right, everybody, here we go. 3, 2.
Time to go off script.
Good morning, Damien.
Hi, David. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's early for
the
you.
invite.
Yeah, of course. So we're joined by Damien LeVeck, the co-writer, producer, and director of The Cleansing Hour, which is available to stream now on Shudder. So I guess the first question. It seems like this film was based on maybe there was a 2016 short film with the same name. So this is maybe an extension of that. Is that the original inspiration for this film? And I guess what inspired the short as well?
Yeah, sure. Yes, it is. It's the sort of extended version of the short. The short was always made as a proof of concept for a feature film, which I think is good advice for any filmmaker out there who wants to make an independent feature film. Make a proof of concept first, because it's a lot easier to get people to give you money for a feature if they have an idea of what you're going to do with it. So we made the proof of concept. The idea kind of comes from my background in reality TV. I've been working in reality TV as an editor for the better part of 15 years and have always been very fascinated by the public's perception that it's real, that it's not, it's amazing what you can do with editing
Shocked.
and with a
It's
little
not
bit
real?
of like producing. Yeah. I mean, it's there are varying degrees, but from show to show. But so that's always been very fascinating to me. I was my poor mother-in-law. She always swore that Duck Dynasty was real, and it's like something. I'm very sorry, but that is they have a staff of writers that was literally writing every single line those guys said. But then also, if you look at these websites like World Star Hip Hop or even YouTube, where people post outrageous videos on grainy, shaky cell phone camera footage, and it somehow like the shaky footage and the lower quality video lends itself to verite. It's more authentic because it was shot on someone's cell phone. So I sort of took those two ideas and combined it with my love for horror movies, and specifically exorcism horror, and thought, like, what if we had a webcast where two guys are fooling people with exorcisms? And that's kind of how The Cleansing Hour came about.
And your point about the grainy footage that make it seem more real is a really interesting one. I'm sure you probably saw Cloverfield, a movie that came out a while ago.
That's a great example of it.
Yeah, I love that film, but one of my big criticisms was, it's this film that's set in this disaster with dust and debris everywhere, and yet the camera's crystal clear and like perfectly centered and whatnot. And so I think you're right that you can use these little touches to make something seem more realistic. And especially nowadays when everyone has a phone, you just never know what's real and what's not.
Yeah, and visual effects is so easy to pull off too. I mean, just even basic knowledge of After Effects, you can do a lot.
Yeah, I'm still learning. This will not be the most well produced interview, but maybe I'll try to add some fire effects or something for you. And the I guess I'm really glad that you are such a big reality TV show, I guess, fan or veteran, because one of the things I really loved about this film is just the cleansing hour show itself. The movie starts off with a really great sequence, and then it cuts to the you know the byline with the merch, and then the introduction in the next for the next episode. It just all looks so well done and so cheesy that I could totally see that being just a perfect YouTube star right there. So
Oh, thank you. I'm definitely the man behind the curtain. I know how the pie is made.
I guess did you try any other YouTube shows or short shows like this before? Kind of going with the cleansing hour short, or was that just kind of the perfect scenario of your experiences and your interests kind of merging into something really special?
It was really kind of the perfect scenario. I mean, what I did bring to it definitely was a long history of being a total post-production nerd. In addition to being an editor, I've worked as my own assistant editor, and I also, part of my company, we develop workflows, and I just love that sort of tech. So there's a lot of me and Drew, and his whole setup. We built a functioning studio set inside of the cleansing hour set, the stage where we shot the movie. So like all the cameras that are on set that we cut to for the webcast cameras are feeding into Drew's switcher and like screens there. So like he could actually switch all the cameras to live. So it was a functioning, it was real, we did it right. We did that on the short too, by the way.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow. That seems like a lot of effort for a short, but I guess you're right. If you want to get something to show that you can do it, you might as well do it all out.
That's right.
And you made your actors do double duty, it sounds like. Did let's see, what's his name? Gallner. Did he actually control some of that, or was that was that all feeding into some sort of main switch with all the camera angles?
There's nothing that he was technically controlling. He was able to switch it without he was just switching what shows up on the monitors. But there's a part in the movie where he's, when Max takes his clothes off and he's trying to keep him in a tight shot so that no one can see that he's naked, and the switcher keeps going back. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like that was an important part of the movie where like he actually had to switch the camera and do it. So like, yeah, he was switching it, and then we had someone remotely switching it back. So it was that was another reason why it's good to have a set that your actor can interact with.
Oh, definitely. And those two had such a good rapport in the film. I can imagine maybe there were some shots where he kind of intentionally messed it up to rib him and make him redo the shoot.
Yeah.
I also really liked your advice about creating a short is spot on. We talked to another independent filmmaker who did the exact same thing. He made a short film and then used that to kind of prove the concept, get some funding, get some more people behind it, and then ended up making the full film later. So I think that's really great advice for anyone that kind of wants to break into this industry or kind of get your ideas made. You really need to kind of put up or shut up, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So I also noticed, I think the cast was different from the short film versus the full feature. Was there any reason for that, or just kind of the timing? Because I think they were filmed a couple of years apart, at least.
Well, the main reason is really that they're two different movies. I don't know if the short film is online right now. We tried to take it down, but the main thing is that I really didn't want people comparing the two. And
I'm sorry.
As far what's that?
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. It's just that in terms of the experience, they're two different beasts. And for me, I felt very strongly that here we're doing something different now. Like, yes, the story is similar, but like as far as the scope and scale of this and like what we're trying to accomplish, I wanted to start fresh. And it had nothing to do. Had nothing to do with the actors themselves, and I'm very friendly with those actors still. So that's the main reason. We were making a different movie, and I wanted to recast it for that reason alone. But Heather Morris is still in the feature film. She has a cameo.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
She's the wife who's stranded in the Israeli desert.
Oh, very cool.
So she's the possessed girl in the short film.
Oh, interesting. Okay, it's perfect. And then, yeah, that's nice. It's a nice little kind of circle back for that.
Yeah.
So speaking of the cast, I really loved the cast. I thought that they were all, kind of they perfectly personified the different characters. So, I guess where did you find them? I really liked Mag's character, and I think, Alix Angelis was just a revelation in this film. Like her possession was, I do not envy her at all, given what she probably had to do to make that come to reality.
Yeah, I think I really lucked out with the cast. My casting director is responsible for finding everybody, and of course I came in with my ideas. We had a couple auditions, several auditions, and that's how I found Ryan. Kyle came to us because of the casting director. She had sent the script to his agent, and Kyle read it and really loved it. And then I met with Kyle a couple times. And then frankly, casting the role of Lane was the hardest one because we auditioned a lot of actresses, many of whom you've seen in other movies, and it just wasn't clicking. Like whatever it was that I wanted, I wasn't finding it. So we eventually did an open call, which means that for anybody that doesn't understand casting, an open call is when a casting director basically puts a post out for everybody to see, and then allows them to submit and submit their self tapes. So we had over 3,000 submissions for the role of Lane, and it was my casting director's job to sort of sift through them. And then finally, whenever I got Alix's tape, I was just blown away, and I got giddy. I was like, oh my gosh, she's the one. Look at this. Like I showed it to my wife, who Natalie is also the producer of the movie, and she was in my head. Like she knew exactly how I imagined these lines were going to be delivered, and then she brought the physicality to it that I hadn't imagined, but she totally did it. And then I didn't want to be impulsive. So I kept watching tapes, and then at that point I'm comparing everybody else's tape to Alix's, and then finally I'm like, why am I doing this? She's the one. So then Alix was it, and I rehearsed a little bit with Alix, but she showed up to set and was just amazing. She was just incredible. I mean, that's the thing about having good actors, is they make a director's job a lot easier, and I frankly didn't have to do much with any of these guys. They all got it. Of course we talked off set a while to prepare, but man, they're really great, and they were so fun to work with. And that's the other thing, is like when you're making an independent film, there are a lot of stresses and things that can go wrong, and ways that you and your cast can be uncomfortable. We were shooting in Romania, and one day the air conditioning went out on the set, and it was like 90 degrees on the stage, and everyone's sweating and everything like that. And like, these guys are just troopers. They're just awesome. They were there. They were along for the ride and part of the battle with us, and we got the movie made because of them. So all the credit to my great cast, and just all the great people that I got to work with to make this movie possible.
Yeah, definitely. The cast was a lot of fun to watch. Painful at times, but painful, but not for those reasons. Painful because of what they had to go through.
Yeah.
Alix's physicality that you mentioned is something that I think is so important, because she definitely kind of transforms when she becomes possessed, and kind of her expression changes, her eyes kind of change. It's a really striking, difference between her normal persona and her possessed persona. So I think that we did that exactly right, because I was just.
It was important, to really, just because she's sitting down for most of the movie, it's really important to be able to sort of differentiate between, like, okay, when is this Lane that's talking, and when is this the demon that's talking? And the only thing that we really changed about her physically was that we would put the contacts in her eyes for her eyes to be white when the demon is talking. But then aside from that, it was all in the performance. So she and I worked together to sort of like define what that is, and then she brought it to life. And it was really fun to watch. She just crushed it. And something, I'm really touched too, because so many of the people who have seen this movie in the last week have responded the way that you have, and they said, like, this is one of the best possession performances that we've ever seen. And that is not a statement to be taken lightly in light of all of the movies, all the possession movies that are out there. And I am incredibly touched by that. But I also, we worked very hard to try and make something that was unique here. I set out to make a movie that I would want to see, first of all, but also that, would be special and unique for the exorcism genre.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that the updates to kind of modernize it were key to that, and kind of bringing in a greater social message. And your points about reality TV were also, well put in the film itself, kind of this produced versus reality kind of duality that exists in all those shows. So yeah, I think it's it definitely fits in with the exorcism genre. I'm out in DC, and we live, maybe about 25 minutes from the exorcism steps themselves, the steps that the priest fell down.
Oh yeah, is it
so,
Baltimore? Is it?
It's actually in Georgetown. That's
oh, it's Georgetown. That's right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So whenever I go by there, I kind of look at that and remember that scene, and I think this could be up there in the exorcism genre as just a good example of good possession, and also just a really fun story. So.
Yeah, thank you. I can count on one hand, I think, the number of like really good exorcism movies. And I love, of course, The Exorcist sort of sets the bar. I was really inspired by Scott Derrickson. I think he's a great filmmaker. So Deliver Us from Evil and Exorcism of Emily Rose, I think, are two of the best. And then The Last Exorcism, I think, was terrific. And am I forget? Oh well, The Conjuring, I think, is a good, like, very like high-end commercial example of like an exorcism movie that really works well, or a haunted house movie that really works well. And I know that might seem like sort of a boilerplate answer, but I mean, the truth is it's really a great film, and I love it. I could probably, if I sat here for long enough, I could probably come up with one or two more, but
Yeah, the only one I can think of is Possession. I think that's the one with the it's like a Jewish
the Dybbuk box.
Yes, the Dybbuk box.
Yeah, that movie I think could have been a lot better. I actually knew about one of the executives at Lionsgate was talking with me about that movie before. He's like, "Oh, we're working with Sam Raimi. We're gonna do this movie called the Dybbuk box," and he was describing it to me. I was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome." And then it came out, and they gave it the most generic title that you could ever give a possession movie. And I saw it and was really bummed out. That said, I really like the actors in it. I love what's his name?
The priest is always the one that kind of sticks out to me. His performance, especially during the kind of exorcism itself, was something that I really enjoyed to see.
Wasn't that Modest Yahoo?
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Modest Yahoo. Yeah. So anyway, it was cool. And there's actually a Dybbuk movie on Shudder that I need to watch. I gotta check that out.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out too.
Yeah, I saw it in my feed.
So I guess because the genre is kind of so specialized, did you do anything with the actors to kind of prepare them for this? Did you all watch possession movies? Did you watch YouTube videos? Are there YouTube videos about exorcisms and possessions and things like that?
Funny story. Ryan Guzman had actually gone to like a Roman Catholic, like preparatory academy that is to groom young men for the priesthood, if you can believe it. So he had already, and this wasn't as part of his preparation, this was just as a young man. So like he had already kind of been like intimately familiar with the workings of that world. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really that far of a stretch for him to pretend to be a priest. And for Kyle, Kyle's prep was really, frankly, I think it's just like a couple decades of making horror movies. So Kyle came in ready to go. And then Alix, like I said, we did do some, did I lose you?
Oh, no, I'm still here.
Hold on, my screen changed. For Alix, we did some rehearsal time, but that not much. We, of course, for each of the actors, we always talked about like their who they are, and like what their relationship is with the other people, and what sort of like is motivating those relationships, and like how we see that playing out, you know, and but those are pretty short conversations.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and you mentioned Alix kind of already had it, so I guess there isn't much that she needed to see to kind of pull off that possession.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed was a little touch, and I'm not sure if this was intentional. The font used in the YouTube, or I guess the live show was it looked similar to kind of the Diablo font, and I kind of let out like an audible or like a little gasp when I saw that, because it kind of brought back those memories.
Yeah. You know something? I don't know what font that was. We had a motion graphics designer make that, but it very well might have been.
Well, it definitely set the mood right. So,
Yeah.
And so you kind of mentioned, kind of the directions that you were giving and whatnot. When you're balancing kind of three hats, making a film, you co-wrote, you directed, and then you produced the film, and then you also edited it. I guess how do you balance that when you're making this movie? And did you kind of just do it temporally, like your writing time was before, your directing time was during, and your producing time was after? Or did you kind of have to jump back and forth during the filming?
Well, there's definitely a lot of crossover. I don't know that you can ever fully separate the four, and I don't think it's also for the faint of heart, because I like to say that making this movie was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I can't wait to do it again. The writing, yeah, most of the writing took place before I started filming it, but I was also rewriting when I was in Romania, which is where we filmed it. Like I was rewriting scenes because there were things that, for a variety of reasons, we weren't able to film, so I had to write something else. That's happening. I had a producing team, so that sort of helped. They sort of took that burden off my shoulders, which was nice. So the producing team was taking care of a lot of the day-to-day producing while I'm doing prep work as a director. But then part of the prep work that I was doing as a director was sort of figuring out how I'm going to film each of these sections of the movie. We were filming 6 to 7 pages a day, which is a lot.
Oh, wow.
And I needed to have a very clear picture for, like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to pull this off? And then that's where my editing background comes in, because as an editor, I've spent a career editing other people's footage and knowing, like, oh, well, I need this shot, but I don't have it because they didn't film it. Well, now, I'm editing in my mind now, so I know exactly what it is I need to shoot, coverage-wise, because I know how it's going to cut together. So I'm a very efficient director in terms of my, what I film, because generally I only really shoot what I'm going to use. And the Cleansing Hour was no exception. Moved very quickly because and oftentimes I didn't really have a choice, but I mean, like, I knew exactly what to shoot, how it was going to cut together, and that's exactly what we shot. So
that sounds like a very useful and exhausting, background to have. It seems like it made for a good shoot, but also you must have just been so beat after that.
Well, I'll tell you, the hardest part was not necessarily that. Like, that comes very naturally to me, just because I've been doing it for so long. Working in that time zone was particularly challenging, because it's not like if you're shooting in Australia or New Zealand, where by 3 or 4 in the afternoon, people are waking up tomorrow, and it's easy for you to, like, get on the phone and talk to people. Mm-hmm. When you're 8 hours ahead, 8 or 9 hours ahead, which is what it is for me in LA, because, like, for you in DC, you're 5 hours ahead, but which would make it a little bit easier, by the way. But by the time my day is wrapping in Romania, we had almost an hour drive back to the hotel, during which time, I'm sitting with the DP and discussing the next day. And we're also talking about, like, okay, what are we going to do for food? So we either have to do Food Panda, which is their version of Uber Eats.
Okay.
And they had just gotten Uber Eats, but Food Panda, I think, was up and running better. Do Food Panda and wait for an hour to 2 hours for your food to arrive. or go to a restaurant where you would spend 2 to 3 hours eating because just meal service works differently there. Then come back to the hotel, and spend the next 3 to 4 hours answering emails and doing phone calls with LA because they're just waking up and you've got a inbox full of things that you have to do. So it's basically 18 to 20 hour days for 2 months. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But I recommend shooting in, that part of the world just because, it is cost effective and, the crews were good. So
I was going to ask, why Romania? I thought maybe I wasn't sure if you filmed in LA because I've talked to a couple directors who said that just LA is so insane to film in, the cost wise. But
yeah, I mean, the cost. Sadly, the cost of shooting anything in the States is makes it very hard for independent films. The Cleansing Hour would have cost a lot more had we filmed it in the States. It would have cost about 5 times as much if we'd filmed it in LA. So that's the reason why.
That makes perfect sense. Plus, you got a nice vacation. You get to go see Romania.
Hardly. I had 1 day off in the 2 months that I was there, and I went to a salt mine. My wife and son came to visit me. Natalie was there for about 10 days, a 10-day stretch, and we went to the salt mine, and I had this terrible internet the entire time I was in Romania. I even got like the faster plan on my phone and everything, and I could never get internet that I was really happy with. But then I go to the salt mine out in the countryside in Romania. It's like it's a retired salt mine, and you go underground and it looks like the mines of Moria. If you've seen Lord of the Rings, it's these 300-foot tall, enormous caverns that are about a mile underground.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And it looks fake when you're staring at it. It's so unbelievably massive, like 60 degrees underground, just like a cave, and had the fastest internet in all of Romania. Somehow they were beaming internet down there, and the Wi-Fi was lightning fast. Faster internet a mile underground in a salt mine than anywhere else in Romania. So if you want fast internet in Romania, that's where you go.
Go to the salt mines. That seems like a great place to film some of these scenes. I don't know what you would have filmed there, but that just sounds spectacular.
It was neat, man. I've got video and pictures of it, and it really does look fake because it's so unbelievable to sight.
So going to the filming, you're filming a movie about an exorcism with a lot of strange things happening. Did anything strange happen while you were filming there, or was it a very kind of conventional movie shoot?
Fortunately, we didn't have any like demons in the equipment or anything like that. Most of the problems that we had were human error or human cause. And I do think that some of the people on the crew were suspicious or superstitious because at one point on the stage where we were filming, someone had put a sign up outside that had like a cross on it and like some sort of like warning that was written in Romanian. I could never figure out what it said, but I think somebody told me that it was like a blessing or something. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? Take what you can get, right? You don't know if it'll help or hurt, so you might as well have it, right?
Yeah.
I also noticed, I think Riley was a film student at SC. Is there any reason? I went to USC, so I'm just wondering if there was a reason for that.
Fight
or
on.
just fight on.
Trojan.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, good for you. Were you in the film program?
No, I was an engineer.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Yeah. I just, I guess it's a little homage to SC. The film student at SC is, I'm sure it's just as bad today as it was then, but they're always they're just they're such a cartoon. They think they know everything and they've got an ego, and that's just kind of who Riley was.
Yeah, no, it was a perfect. Another thing that made me smile was that reference. So it was a nice touch. Plus, it evokes LA, right? You got to get the little LA touches here and there. So
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I tried to, remind the audience as much as possible that we are in LA. There is that one scene in the alley that's outside of, with Dante walking up looking for the cleansing hour.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was filmed in Romania, and then we comped in the LA skyline behind it to, and it works, I think, but, that was a fun day to shoot. But that was the only time when you actually like see LA, and then everything else was either in Romania, or we did shoot 2 days in LA actually. A couple spectator scenes,
mm-hmm.
but you would never know it looking at it.
Oh, that's at least got a little bit of an authentic touch there. But no, I agree. I couldn't tell which alley it was, but it definitely kind of felt like it could have been in the city somewhere. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now I'd like to move on to the lightning round, I call it. It's just kind of quick questions that kind of relate to the characters, kind of relate to the movie, but they're just lightweight. You can choose to answer or not. It's up to you. I'm not going to get angry if you choose not to answer, although I try to keep them very answerable. So,
of course.
First question is, did you grow up religious?
No, I was raised Roman Catholic, so I like to say I'm a recovering Catholic.
I mean, that's pretty religious. So I can imagine some of that rubbed off.
Well, and you haven't met many Catholics, I guess. A lot of them wear their faith on their sleeve, and I don't know. I'm not Roman Catholic anymore. I'm actually Christian. I'm a Protestant Reformed Christian.
So, have you ever seen a real exorcism?
No. I mean, I've seen videos online, but I don't know if that counts.
No, I mean, because you never know what they're doing to produce it. You could have just taken some of the scenes from this film and put it in a grainy YouTube video, and it would have been easily it could have easily been a convincing exorcism. So, yeah. What's the most inconvenient place you've lost signal before? It sounds like maybe it was just Romania in general.
Yeah, that's probably it. Like the not being able to use my phone in Romania did become problematic at times.
There is some tension between Drew and Lane about their honeymoon. So if you had to choose Cabo or Bali?
Bali, easily.
Yeah, well, that's easy choice, but I guess where would your ideal honeymoon or trip be?
You mean aside from Bali?
Aside from Bali, yeah. Maybe it is Bali. Maybe it's just always Bali, or maybe it's Romania. Maybe it's back to the salt mines.
Well, no, definitely not there. Ideal. Well, I'll tell you the first thing that came to mind was back to the Amalfi Coast in Italy. I went there a while back, and I loved it, and I would so very much love to return there and just sit out on like a terrace and do nothing all day.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, it kind of sounds like what we're doing now, except we're not in a beautiful, picturesque area, but
Right.
Do you have any online shows that you watch regularly, kind of episodic things, or on the Twitch streamers, things like that?
Yeah. I do.
All right.
Do you?
Not really. Kind of just the consequence of this hobby is I watch a lot of movies, and pretty much if I can watch something, I'm trying to watch a movie just to keep up with everything that's coming out. There's so many things that are streaming and digital now that there's just a ton of content.
Yeah, I've given up on trying to keep up. I watch what I watch, and I rely on other people to tell me what else to watch.
Well, I do my best.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What is what's the cheapest online item or cheapest thing that you bought? You see all these posts about like buying things from, I think it's Wish, and you kind of get something that is not what you expect. And some parts of this film do deal with merchandise that might be less than expected. So do you have any personal stories about that?
Yeah, I think this was a Wish purchase. I bought these workout gloves that when they showed up, they were they were like so poorly made. They were basically like toilet paper sewn together, and you put it on and like you wrap up your hand and like they just start falling apart right away. So it's buyer beware on Wish, but you know, it's still pretty awesome.
Maybe you were just lifting too much. Maybe you just you're too ripped for those gloves.
That could be it too. I do have big hands.
And I guess what's next for you now that this film is out and streaming and kind of getting the buzz it's getting?
Well, I've got two films that I'm working on right now. I've got a classic sort of haunted house horror that's set against the Irish countryside that integrates like Irish folklore and everything into it. And then I have a contained movie, sort of a COVID special. It's a contained creature body horror that's set indoors during a blizzard. So I'm really excited about that one too.
Both of those sound fantastic. Do you know where they're going to be distributed, or is that still kind of in the works?
No, we're still putting them together. The Irish one I would want to film in Ireland, and the other one can be filmed pretty much anywhere, just because it is contained.
Perfect. Those both sound exciting. I really want to see the Irish one. That sounds fantastic. Just that sense of history and Irish culture sounds like a fun backdrop for a horror film.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun to research and everything, and I love a good haunted house movie.
There you go.
Yeah,
well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. I know that I kind of had to get up pretty early, but this is a lot of fun.
This is perfect for me. I've got 3 kids, so it's easy for me to get up in the morning.
That is well, you are. I don't know if you're doing quarantine right, but it must at least be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's working out.
Awesome.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much too. Take care.
All right, David.
All right.
You take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. That was Damien LeVeck, the director, co-writer, and producer of the all-new Shudder original, The Cleansing Hour. It's available to stream right now on Shudder, so you can check it out at home, but maybe say a little prayer before you start it. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps us out a lot and makes sure all of our new videos go straight to you. And as always, please go to watchyourpast.com for all your movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Thank you.